Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Brushes and Bunnies, and in this video tutorial we're going to be tackling how to draw human bodies, more specifically female bodies. Although this video tutorial is for female bodies, the basic proportions and basic anatomy that you will learn in this video can also be applied for drawing male bodies. Of course, I'll be doing a separate video tutorial for how to draw male bodies in the near future, so of course, if you're interested in that, do subscribe to this channel and also ring the little notification bell and you'll be notified for my next upload. When it comes to drawing bodies, there are so many tips out there, there are so many tutorials out there, and also techniques that can help you as a beginner to learn how to draw a body, whether it's female or male. I'll probably be doing a separate video about this, just outlining some of these techniques that you can do. But in terms of the technique that has helped me to learn how to draw or to understand the basic shapes and the way that you place things for a body, I will be showing you this technique in this video. Just like what I did for learning how to draw faces, I drew a very basic guide in my sketchbook, and I would draw this guide a little bit at the beginning, maybe in multiple sketchbooks, just so I could refer back to it in the future when I was drawing the face. For this example, I am drawing a guide to show where the basic areas of the body start. For example, we have maybe a body that will be 8 heads tall, and depending on the size of the head that you draw, you can then further kind of proportion it based on the height of the head. So in this case, we have 8 heads down, and from there on, you can draw guidelines that separate the heads. And here, between these guidelines, you can then further separate it based on where the shoulders will appear, where the elbows and waist will appear, where the knees will appear. A lot of this just really helps to kind of figure out where certain things start and where certain things end. For example, some key markers that I have drawn that have really helped me is to just fill in where the shoulders, the elbows and waist, the hips, or the hip and pelvic bone area, the knees, and the ankles will appear within this 8-head structure. If we take a look at this guide, we can see where certain things will be. For example, the shoulders will appear in the 2nd head section, about 1/3 of the way down. The elbows and waist will appear in the 3rd head section, directly above the line that separates the 3rd and the 4th head. The hips and the pelvic area will be entirely covered by the 4th head. Just like the elbows and waist, the knees will appear directly above the 6th and the 7th head guideline. And the ankles will of course be in the very last head placement, near the bottom part of the head, maybe at a halfway point. Drawing this basic proportion guideline in your sketchbook is definitely super helpful, and it's a great exercise and technique to do if you're wanting to learn how to draw bodies. Of course, this is just the basic guidelines. Things can change depending on your style and of course depending on the character height. Maybe it will be 5 heads short, or I don't know, even taller. It again depends, but this is just the essential building blocks to building a body. Another exercise that's really great to do is to go one step further. So essentially just draw the same thing that you just did on the left-hand side that you see here in the sketchbook. Draw it again, and this time we add a little bit of more structure to it, and we actually draw the body shape, and we use just basic geometry and basic shapes to build something that looks kind of like a human body, but you can also use it as a sort of representation or a guide for the future when you're drawing other actual bodies. So just to kind of re-summarize the little exercise, I am drawing the shape of the head, and depending on that size of the head or the height of the head, I will then replicate 8 heads down. I will do the same head over and over. In this case, if you want to get an accurate measurement, you can of course use your ruler or use your fingers or use something that will help measure. But for this sort of exercise that I'm doing now, I'm just winging it and just kind of guessing, you know, the appropriate size. So there's going to be a little bit inaccurate here, but once you do it more, you will get better and you will understand the correct measurements. The next thing that I do in this exercise is to typically sort of work with the guidelines that I already established on the left-hand side here. So for example, where the shoulders will appear or the waist and the elbows, and I start to build my character. In terms of just, quickly building something, I will just do very vague shapes that sort of resemble a human torso, for example, and I'll start just using triangles and squares and circles and just build my character and try to build the general anatomy based on the guidelines that I've already established. For the different parts of the human body, there will be different measurements as well. For example, the shoulders should be at least 3 heads wide. The pelvic area should be 2 heads wide, for example. There are different things, and perhaps I think I'll have to do another video about this, showing the actual exact measurements for everything, for both female and male. But for this video, the purpose is just to kind of take a look at the basic structure and what, technique I have been using to build body shapes. Yeah, if you're curious about this, also, if you're curious to get the exact measurements, you can find all these great tutorials online. I will link a few down below in my video description, so if you're interested, you can take a look at what has been helping me figure out how to proportionalize things and, how big a leg should be, how wide shoulders should be, as a general basic guide. And of course, a lot of this is subjective in terms of it being different for each character you draw, but this is sort of the essential basics that you will need to be aware of. The next piece of the puzzle is to understand movement. Now for this video tutorial, I should have kind of went into a little bit more detail in terms of what this meant, but when I was recording, I was just doing something very quick, and I just wanted to show you guys the thought process of what I think about before I start to draw the body. So not only do I think about the general guidelines in terms of where the shoulders go and how high this should be and where certain body things should appear, but I also consider the movement of the body. So how do I want my character to stand, and in what way could something maybe curve a little bit here to the side, to the right side, or maybe the pelvic bone is shifted a little bit where she's standing on an angle. So these are the types of things that you can add to your character when you're drawing to give it a little bit more, personality and characteristic, and of course make it a little bit more realistic in that regards. So movement is definitely something you should be aware of. And a lot of the movement does come from the center of the body, so where the torso is and where the pelvic bone is. And you can do this by just sort of quickly fleshing out how it will appear with just very basic lines. After doing a few practice runs in your sketchbook, whether you created some guides or you just did some very quick drawings in terms of movement or proportions, definitely go ahead and put all of that work into practice and actually sketch some bodies. So for this video tutorial, I actually did 4 different types of bodies. I'll just be fast forwarding in a little bit so you can see all of them while I'm still talking a little bit. And there's something that I actually wanted to give you as a little bit of a trick. So when you're learning how to draw bodies, something that I do use are, of course, reference photos. I go on Pinterest or DeviantArt and I search for, I don't typically search for anything as much anymore because a lot of the things do appear in my recommendations already in my feed. So I do have a lot of inspiration already there for me. But in this case, you can just search for, just females, I guess, or male. I don't know. If you want to search for models, you can do so. There's all kinds of really great resources out there to use. So I do look for a photo and I do try to find different body shapes and different unique things that could be fun to draw. So for example, I will draw perhaps a curvier woman, or I will draw someone who's a bit more on the thin side, like a supermodel, for example, just to try to draw the different muscles and try to draw the different textures and the curves. And yeah, it really does help to learn that way, is to draw different body shapes. Once I find a reference photo that I want to draw, I then analyze it based on the kind of proportions and the guidelines that I've already worked on or that I practiced beforehand. So how tall is the model's head? And basically I break down the body based on that measurement. And this really does help to see where certain things will be, especially if the model is sitting in a funny position. Maybe you're not used to drawing. It could be a little bit challenging. Maybe something like the knees are, like she's sitting on her knees, for example. How long should you draw the leg? if you can't really see it as well. There's all kinds of different examples where there are more advanced positions, and this might be a bit tricky, especially if you're a beginner. So just really analyzing the reference photo that you have first is super, super helpful, just to kind of break down the different parts of the body before you get to actually sketching it. Another thing that I would like to point out, apart from the basic proportions and also the movement and sort of the position of the character, is to also recognize the curviness of a woman, especially if you're drawing a woman. Now, of course, different bodies, there are different bodies out there, different women have different bodies, and it's also something that you should recognize in your drawings, of course, rather than just draw the same body over and over again, because it not only helps you try to draw different things, but it's also really, really fun to do different shapes and thicknesses. But one thing that will differentiate between a female and a male body is, of course, the hardness of the lines. So what I mean by that is, with the female body, things are just naturally more curvy. There are more round shapes. Things are just curvier, no matter sort of like whether it's the arm or the hips or the chest or even the face. It's just more, it's less angular, more curvy, whilst the males could be a little bit more muscular or again, it really depends on the body shape. But this is something that you can definitely play around with and have a lot of fun when you're drawing your characters, is to just remember to curve those lines and make them not so rigid, and just kind of go with a really nice flow in a way when you're drawing a female. To summarize this video tutorial, I would recommend that you take these following steps. The first thing would be to, of course, practice those basic proportions, build a general basic guideline in your sketchbooks that you can refer back to in terms of the body and where certain things will appear and how it will appear based on the head shape. This technique has helped me so much. As you can see, I am drawing bodies without so much of not that much of an effort in terms of it being so hard. It's actually not that hard once you understand how things can be broken down. There are so many guides out there. I will, of course, again, link them down below in the video description. It will help you. Take a look. It has helped me for sure. And I hope that this basic video of just kind of understanding how things can be started off or how things can work will also help you. So definitely practice in your sketchbook, apply your guidelines to actual practice, and just sketch away. Just draw all kinds of things, all kinds of bodies, different positions, different characters, and yeah, just have some fun doing it. It's really not that challenging or not that impossible. That being said, I will be doing some more video tutorials, like I said, tips and tricks for drawing bodies, things that you can do before to prepare yourself, especially if you're a beginner, and also additional video tutorials on how to draw male bodies or how to draw the actual legit proportions. For example, how wide should the shoulders be, what to do if your character is a bit shorter or a bit taller. So these are the things that I will hopefully be tackling very soon. I want to wish you all a wonderful Sunday, and I hope you're having a great weekend. Keep drawing, never give up, keep being awesome, and we will see each other next weekend. Bye!